From the towering Wasatch Mountains of the American Southwest, we welcome you to this episode of Undiscovered Utah. This show focuses on the mysteries that surround the rugged, difficult, and sometimes deadly American Southwest. I'm your host, JB, and tonight's episode has two parts. The first section, I want to tell you a sad and very haunting story about Utah Lake and possibly other bodies of water. In the second section, we will discuss a very fun family activity. There is an old Native American verbal tradition passed down through the generations that might get you to think twice before entering the waters of Utah Lake, or any other body of water for that fact. Many of the Southwest's indigenous tribes have a similar oral tradition of spirits that haunt bodies of water. Utah Lake is one of the most notorious bodies of water referred to in this oral tradition. I know what you're thinking. Utah Lake? Of all the places, that is not haunted. People recreate on Utah Lake all the time. Well, that is true, but after I tell you this story, those people might want to think twice. Utah Lake is a large body of water that is a remnant of the ancient Lake Bonneville that covered much of Utah, parts of Idaho, and parts of Nevada. Utah Lake has many rivers and streams that empty into it, but only one river that flows out of it. It's the Jordan River, and it flows into the Great Salt Lake. The lake has about 95,000 acres of surface area and approximately 870,000 acres of water volume. But the lake is very shallow, with an average depth of only about 10.5 feet. Because of the shallow nature of this large lake, when storms come over the valley, the last place you want to be is on Utah Lake. But long before boating, jet skis, and wave runners hit the waters of Utah Lake, Native Americans approached this body of water very carefully, and here's why. The oral tradition varies from tribe to tribe, but the story goes something like this. Long before white man stepped foot in the American Southwest, the native indigenous people called this area home. They raised their families here, grew their crops here, hunted and fished here in the crystal clear waters and rivers, streams, and lakes. Now, the next part of the story might be difficult for some to hear, especially the younger folk. So parents, you might want to listen to this first before your kids do. Centuries ago, when a child was born with birth defects, or if the child became sick, or if there was an extreme drought and the mothers couldn't produce milk due to their own malnutrition, the indigenous people didn't want the babies to suffer. And so they would take their newborn child to the shoreline of what is now called Utah Lake. They would take the baby, put it under the water, and drown the child. This was done so that the child wouldn't suffer. Remember, this was done a long time ago, and we cannot and should not judge these people on today's knowledge or standards. It was a very different time, a very different culture, and day-to-day life was very different. By all accounts, this act was not an act of selfishness, but an act of love and respect, but still very tragic with today's knowledge. We have no idea how many small children suffered this type of death, but it was enough that this story was passed down from generation to generation in many different tribes in the Southwest. The story goes on to say that not long after this practice started, people started to hear at night the sound of babies crying or of children making noises down by the water's edge. Out of concern, the person would investigate and was never seen or heard of again. You see, it was said that the spirits of the deceased babies were haunting the shoreline of Utah Lake and taking vengeance on anyone passing by after dark that approached the sounds of a small child or of a crying baby. Soon, the practice of drowning the babies and small children ended as fear swept through the tribe. Utah Lake was a very important food source for the surrounding tribes as the fish were plentiful. Needless to say, the lake being haunted by what were referred to as water babies was not a good thing for anyone. Some tribes believed that these odd drownings that were accompanied by the sounds of baby crying were not the spirits of babies at all, but evil creatures that would impersonate the sounds of small children or crying babies to lure an unsuspecting passerby to the lake's edge and then drown them. In much more recent years, it has been reported many times that people are seeing strange creatures on the lake's edge or in the waters. In the past 20 years or so, there have been recorded video of a Sasquatch-like creature hiding in the reeds near the shore of Utah Lake. And a report from a young man who was with some friends near Lincoln Beach on the south end of the lake and told a horrifying encounter with a dogman-like creature that scared the living daylights out of them. And they scrambled back to their truck, and then the creature, running on 2 feet, chased their truck down the dirt roads. Dogs do not run on 2 feet. So, if you are near the shores of Utah Lake at night and you hear the sounds of small children or a baby crying, please proceed with extreme caution. And for heaven's sakes, don't go alone. Even today, there are strange and tragic stories of people that have drowned at Utah Lake. Just a couple of years ago, the news of 2 girls, one 18 and the other one was 17 years old. The 2 girls took some tubes down to the shoreline to play in the water and to cool off in the hot May temperatures. The girls were never seen alive again. 8 days later, their bodies were found miles away from where they were planning to go play in the water. The girls were not wearing any life jackets. Just the very next year, the news broke of 2 brothers that went to Utah Lake to recreate on a wave runner on a Saturday evening. They were last seen alive by people camping at Lincoln Beach at about 7 p.m. They were never seen alive again. Their bodies were discovered about a mile away from where they had put into the lake. One brother was 33 years old and the other brother was 21 years old. In this case, both of them were wearing life jackets. Whether the lake is haunted or just a very shallow lake that can create huge waves very quickly with a summer thunderstorm, it really doesn't matter. People drown on this lake. The lake in recent years has had a very toxic algae bloom that has taken the lives of several dogs. Be smart, and please, be careful. Now on to a lighter topic. I have a question for you. What in Utah is over 2,400 miles in length? Any guesses? Okay, I'll give you a hint. It is considered the largest recreational facility on Earth, and it's right here in Utah. Oh, you're still not sure? Okay, here's another clue. It goes as high as 11,000 feet above sea level and as low as 5,100 feet above sea level. Well, do you give up? Okay. It is the world-famous HOV riding destination called, no, it's not Moab, no, it's not Kanab. It's the Paiute UTV trail system. Have you heard of it? Have you ridden part of it? Do you want more information about it? Well, if you said yes, then you're at the right place. Well, first off, where does the trail start? There are a lot of places you can start and stop. That is one of the cool things about this trail system. The main places to start are from the following towns: Joseph, Utah, Burrville, Casharum, Greenwich, Antimony, Circleville, Junction, Manderfield, and Kanosh. If you know where these towns are that I just listed, then you know that this is a huge geographical circle. If you don't have a clue where these towns are, well, then you need to plan a trip. Back in 1988, the small town of Circleville had two lifetime friends that were sitting on the tailgate of a pickup truck and drinking a Coke. They were talking about how the government had just banned all HOV from Highway 153. This sucked because that was the main road that allowed them to ride their three-wheelers from their hometown to their favorite hunting and fishing areas. The two friends were Clyde Lay and Lyndon Romine. Clyde was a forest engineer for the Fish Lake National Forest, and Lyndon was a Paiute County commissioner. They got talking about how there was a horse trail up Wade's Canyon, and with a little work could be made into an HOV/horse trail, and would help reopen access to some of their favorite outdoor activities. Well, one thing led to another, and soon they found themselves mapping out a 250-mile loop that went from beautiful high mountain passes to amazing desert landscapes and everything in between. Oh man, this would be awesome. We could ride forever, they thought. This loop included small towns along the way that riders could drive into to get gas, food, or even lodging. Clyde and Lyndon got to work, and soon their dream became a reality, as almost everyone saw the economic boom this had the potential to bring to the area. The name of the trail system was spelled Paiute, and not Piute, like the county in Utah that includes much of the trails. The difference in spelling was done out of respect and to represent the local indigenous tribes. A symbol was selected for the trail signage of a Fremont Indian petroglyph of an anthropomorphic figure found in the area. They gave this figure the nickname of Taz. Many other helpers joined the cause, and with the help of a grant from the state of Utah, construction on the trail was underway. It should be noted that much of this trail system used existing roads and trails, but these were improved and signage was added to assist the trail rider. Today, the Paiute Trail System has grown to include 2,400 miles of trails. It crosses 3 mountain ranges and spans several counties. The Paiute Trail connects 16 towns that welcome riders with open arms. If you do the loop and drive it nonstop, it would take about 25 hours to complete the number 1 trail. It is not recommended, however. It does create a good bragging ride if you power through. The much more enjoyable trip would be to add a few nights of camping under the stars or drop into a nearby town for a hot shower and a nice hotel. Some of the more popular points of interest along the Paiute Trail that can be accessed by ATV or UTV includes Butch Cassidy's Boyhood Homestead. The Butch Cassidy Trail runs 3 miles from the trailhead at the Circleville, Utah Cemetery south to the homestead. This is one historical ride and visit you don't want to miss. The Old Spanish Trail. The old trail connects Santa Fe, New Mexico with Los Angeles, California. The northern route passed through Moab, Green River, the San Rafael Swell, then through what is now part of the Paiute Trail. Mule trains packed with gold traverse this trail. I'm sure they dropped a bar or two along the way. The Big Rock Candy Mountain. This is a very scenic area, and the mountain received its name because it looks like a mountain of different colored candies. The Silver King Mine. The name given to mines has always confused me, but maybe that was the point. The Silver King Mine is an old gold mine. It was purchased by Brigham Dagger and his wife Permelia. They built a summer home here and raised 10 children while they worked the mine. The ghost town of Kimberly. This old ghost town site is on the side of Gold Mountain in the Tusher Mountains. This gold mining town was started in the 1890s, and its last residents moved out in the 1930s. Explore the old ruins, but please leave them as you find them. Otter Creek Reservoir. This is a great place to stop and rest. Here you can find fuel restaurants, cabin rentals, and even boat rentals, and some of the best fishing in the state of Utah. The Fillmore Historical State House Park. This is a must-see in Fillmore. This was the Utah Territory Capitol building before Utah became a state. Cove Fort. This solid rock fort was built in 1867 during the Black Hawk Wars. Tours of the fort are fun and educational and look into the lifestyle of the late 1800s. Fish Lake is a natural lake, was once home to the largest wooden man-made building west of the Mississippi, the Fish Lake Lodge. This was a place to stay, enjoy dances, even go to church and get something to eat. The Fremont Indian State Park. The Fremont Indians once called this area home. As a matter of fact, this location is considered to be the largest known Fremont Indian village anywhere. Here you can see the ruins, artifacts, petroglyphs, and pictographs as you tour the park. This is just a small sample of the points of interest along the Paiute Trail, not counting the mile after miles of absolutely beautiful country and just about every type of wildlife known to Utah. Get out and explore the Paiute Trail. For more information, you can visit www.paiutetrailcountry.com. If you would like more information about tonight's episode, you can email us at info@undiscoveredutah.com. You can find us on the internet at undiscoveredutah.com or on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Be sure to click that follow button. All you need to do is search for Undiscovered Utah. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Undiscovered Utah. Join me next time as I share more about the Great Southwest. Good night, everybody.